We want to make sure we send a message to our Canadian friends up north.
Midwest nice is the closest thing to Canadian hospitality.
American governors are freaking out, begging Canadians in video messages to please come visit our state. I know our president is crazy, but please, we need the tourism. And I think I answer for most Canadians when I say no. That said, in this video, I want to play for you a couple of their video messages. And in one case, one governor who is just incredibly dishonest, hypocritical, gross. I'll get to that in a minute here. But let me first set the stage for what is going on right now, why they are freaking out. So this from Forbes. Canadian car travel to the U.S. plunges 32% in March as boycott escalates. So I don't think I have to explain anymore what's been going on. Obviously, Trump, 51st state, tariffs, the threats of annexation, all that stuff has led to this boycott, which has really put a damper on tourism to the U.S. So it dropped by 32% compared to March of last year. There was also a 13.5% decline in air travelers from Canada compared to March of last year. It was the third consecutive month of steep decline of inbound Canadian car travel, following a 23% year-over-year drop in car travel and a 2.4% drop in air travel to the U.S. in February after Trump announced his tariffs and began referring to Canada as the 51st state. So the U.S. Travel Association warned that even a 10% reduction in Canadian inbound tourism could translate to $2.1 billion in lost spending and 140,000 jobs jeopardized in the hospitality and related sectors. So, I'm not going to blame the governors for clearly wanting to try and do something about this, try and reach out to Canadians to come and visit, but there's a good reason why we aren't. The governor, or should I say the government of Canada, has warned Canadian travelers that they should expect a different attitude at the border. Quote, expect scrutiny at ports of entry, including of electronic devices. The government also notes that if a Canadian is denied entry, they could be detained while awaiting deportation. Just based on my experience alone, or the stuff that I've clearly publicly said about Trump and how insane the man is, why would I ever risk going to the US? And I'm someone who's, more public facing. There are Canadians who are private, who I'm sure in their text messages on social media have said much worse things about Trump than I've said publicly. Why would any Canadian want to willfully give themselves up to the American Gestapo? So I covered one example of this. There are many examples of this, but one high-profile one about a month ago. Canadian woman, one of many chained and held by U.S. border security to meet quotas. She was held for 2 weeks. She went to reapply for a visa. If anything, because she had a visa, she should have already been more welcomed into the country, if anything. But going to reapply for her visa, detained for 2 weeks in prison. Why would Canadians subject themselves to this when they don't need to? So let me start with Gavin Newsoms. This is, of course, the California governor. His message to Canadians.
Today, we launched a new international campaign focused on encouraging Canadians to come visit the great state of California. The state of mind in the United States of America has dramatically changed as it relates to the approach to Canada. And we want to make sure we send a message to our Canadian friends up north to come to a state where 2 million Canadians visited last year, to come visit a state where there's something for everybody. Visit California.
All of this ignores the fact that California does not control the U.S. border. The Trump administration does. Again, why would we risk? Even if the boycott, the tariff wasn't a threat, that didn't exist, based on what's happening at the border alone, with how Canadians are being treated, why would we go? So this is the kind of message that Gavin Newsom is putting out there. This is from Instagram. I'll see how much of this I can subject myself to before I have to pause it.
Canada and Canada have always shared so much in common. Sure, you know who's trying to stir things up back in D.C., but don't let that ruin your beach plans. California, it's the ultimate playground. 2,000 miles from Washington and a world away in mindset. From our iconic beaches and national parks to world-class wine.
Do you know what a border is? It doesn't matter the geography of how close you are to DC. What matters is what's happening at the border. So there's more to this garbage. But I want to get to the insane hypocrisy at the heart of Gavin Newsom's message here. So you may have heard that Trump recently put this message out. I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. This would have a massive negative impact on the film industry worldwide. Now, Gavin Newsom is in support of this idea, saying California built the film industry and we're ready to bring even more jobs home. We've proven what strong state incentives can do. Now it's time for a real federal partnership to make America film again. POTUS, let's get it done. Entertainment production in Canada is a big industry. So it's gone up every year. Of course, 2023, that was during the strikes. So there's a bit of an impact there. But this is a massive industry. This kind of approach would decimate the film industry in Canada. But Gavin Newsom really wants you to come visit. He's welcoming to Canadians. So it's a message not being well received. This is in relation to the Trump tariff on movies not being well received by Ontario politicians. On Monday, Minister of Economic Development Vic Fedeli said that the province will suit up against yet another assault in response. Quote, this is a direct assault to our film sector all through Ontario. And of course, each province has its own investments or incentives for film production. BC is another big province for it. But it's also a bit odd as experts are scratching their heads over how such a tax would work given how intertwined the global film industry is. Of course, on many of these projects, there's some filming done, in different countries, some in the US. Of course, there's Canadians and Americans. And of course, people from other countries working on various projects all at once. So it's not really certain how it would work in practice. But don't worry, Gavin Newsom has a solution. In fact, he's offering to partner with Trump to create a federal film tax credit program worth at least $7.5 billion to boost domestic film production. Newsom's proposal, if approved, will represent by far the largest single government subsidy program ever for the industry in the U.S. and the first of its kind at the federal level. And this is at a time when Trump and his congressional allies are hell-bent on slashing funding for federal programs that are actually benefiting people in need. This would just be another tax giveaway to the White Lotus set. If you haven't followed Gavin Newsom too closely recently, this is a guy who has been moving right-wing because he thinks that's what he needs to do to be able to win an election in 4 years. When in reality, what you actually have to do is fight the Trump administration. And he is doing the opposite, offering to work with them at the detriment of Canadians. This gets to somebody who I don't have as much hatred towards, and that is Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois. So he put out a message for Canadians as well. This one just went out recently. Check it out.
Every year, over 600,000 Canadians travel south to the great state of Illinois. It's not hard to imagine why. Not only do we boast the United States' third largest metropolis, but from Rockford to Carbondale, Illinois is full of people who are happy to show you why the land of Lincoln is so great. I don't blame anyone whose appetite for visiting might have soured with our current president and the shameful way he's represented us on the national stage as of late. But as governor and self-designated chief marketing officer of Illinois, I want to reassure you that we're as eager as ever to have you come here. As you head south through our shared Great Lakes, Chicago is ready to welcome you as a gateway to Illinois, or as we call it, the middle of everything. And everything is the best word to sum up what Illinois can offer you. From world-class dining, thrilling sports teams, and a dynamic and historic music scene, to miles of national parks, lakefronts, and outdoor adventures, our state is ready for visitors from all over the world, and particularly from our neighbor to the north. There's a big orange elephant in the room for sure, But here in Illinois, we're ready and eager to prove that Midwest nice is the closest thing to Canadian hospitality you can get south of Windsor. Come on down and let us show you.
I don't think you're understanding. Chicago's nice. Illinois is great. I've been to Chicago. Great people, great city, a lot to see. Loved it there. Canadians do not want to risk getting Gestapo'd over a deep dish pizza. It's simply not worth it. What are you going to do to ensure that Canadians are safe when they cross the border? There's nothing you really can do because you don't control the borders. You don't control Trump's border police. So until you're able to address that central problem, in addition to, of course, the tariffs and everything else, tourism is going to continue taking a hit in the U.S. when there's so much to see in Canada. Before Trump was elected, I was heavily considering another visit to New York City because I love that city. Then Trump happened, his threats happened, and we went to Banff instead. Beautiful. Had never been to Alberta. Beautiful scenery, great people, great food. Had a great time. There is so much of Canada that many Canadians have not seen. I encourage you to visit other places in Canada. And I get, if you want to go somewhere warm, there are other countries you can visit that are warm that are not the US. So I fail to see their arguments here. Like, I get what they're trying to argue, what they're saying, that, hey, you'll love it here because our people are nice too. I don't doubt that. Your citizens aren't the problem. Last thing I want to end on here is just the fact that governors in the Northeast are inviting Canadian premiers to a summit to try and basically save the tourism industry in their states. So Janet Mills, Maine governor, is part of that delegation where they're predicting a 25% drop for the upcoming summer season in their tourism sector. So I completely understand and maybe even some way empathize with the situation that this industry, that tourism is in America, and how Canadians not visiting are seriously impacting revenue, jobs. I get that. But you're the problem here. We aren't the problem.